Do we have any questions from the participants?
Am I
Hello,
audible?
yes.
You're audible, yeah.
Hello. Hello, Cherylene. I'm Robin from Dubai. Actually, I
Hi,
have some three
Robinson.
questions for you. I'll go one by one.
Okay,
Uh,
I'll try to answer.
actually, okay. Okay, actually, I want to ask you, like, how do you work on the initial stage of your decision, the evolution, and in what stage do you feel that software plays its role, and how important for an architect is for software, a tool to develop themselves?
So I think your first question is about the design evolution, right?
Yeah,
How do
like
you
like
make?
how do you work on the initial stage, like your process towards the
Hmm.
form and the functional evolution of a design?
Okay, so firstly, I would say that understanding the design intent is very important. Understanding the design criteria. Why are you doing it? What is the project about? What is the project brief about? And then I would say being critical about the context, really taking your context and really exploring how much you can go with it. And number three is and then creating this sort of inspiration board for yourself. I think as designers we are drawing inspiration from everything, right? Whatever we see around us, whatever experiences we're going through uh, within us, or as encounters with people. I mean, me talking to you is an experience in itself. So I think your inspiration can be that, and then you also sort of collect visuals from around you, from obviously the internet, which could amplify your thinking process even more. And then you create a mood board, I guess. You create like a inspiration board where you know the kind of design direction you want to take, but then you're also thinking about your context, and then you're also thinking about your objectives. And then the most important is when you have to remember the architectural style, not just of the office but of yourself. So I think when you're working for a global firm, you have to be mindful of their architectural style, and but then not losing your own identity. You're there as a designer, but you're also an individual first. So I think it's very important as a designer. In my approach would be that I would try to brainstorm with people, talk to people. Collaborating is very important. So talking to people and then coming up with ideas. And then the initial stage is, I guess, literally putting that idea to life. Yes, if it is a sketch, draw it out on paper, and then if it is yes, you want to test it. Yes, you must test it, because it cannot remain in your head. You have to translate it so that your colleagues and the other architects working with you can understand what you're trying to do. So then I guess it's a process. It's a process of creating these tests and trying out, exploring, and then coming up with a few options, and then coming up with designed decisions. Ultimately, then we decide whether yes, should we move in this direction. And then what counters that is probably someone else's design, and then we think about how we can combine the two. How can we combine, making it more rich. So yeah, the initial stages are usually this way, where it's just brainstorming. I think it's very important to just brainstorm and just have your idea. And your second question was about the software. So I think, yeah, softwares play a very important role. But again, they are tools. I don't think that they should take over your life. If you don't know how to use the software, I mean, you will learn, right? You can expand your knowledge, but it's just a tool. It's a tool to enable you to enhance your design process. For example, if the thought is already born in your head, it's already there in your head, and then you sketch it out, but then you don't know how to translate it. So then you need these tools. It's super important to have these the knowledge of these software tools. So but then again, again, it ranges, it's from 3D modeling softwares. Then you have your 2D detailing softwares also, very important to have that. And, like AutoCAD, but then also Rhino, because Rhino, Grasshopper these are the basics, I feel. And then if you want to move more into 3D modeling, it's like Maya, Autodesk Maya, and then just exploring with that. And also, I would say these softwares, like, for rendering and also for your post-production, your visualization softwares, like your Adobe Suite, like your Photoshop, Illustrator, all of that. And then your rendering softwares are also very important to enhance your design, because then your option will be complete. You have addressed every aspect. So software knowledge is important, is very important. Yeah.
Thank you, Cherylene. I have one more question for you. Actually, I find a mix of various levels in achieving the fluidic forms, as well as in MAD architects too, like the projects you have shown us. For example, in the Urban Opera House, we all know there are a lot of acoustical considerations as well, So how do you handle so many layers simultaneously?
Yeah, so yeah, when you're addressing a project as big as that, I think if we go back all the way to the beginning again, to the nascent stage, it starts with the concept development, the form development, and then you sort of have that in place, and then you move to the SD stage, which is then we start to detail out things. But then at the same time, you have to remember there is your client who is forcing their ideas and visions, but then there is you who's trying to maintain your architectural style, drawing nature from inspiration. So I think it's an overlap of layers, but I think it happens in stages. From my experience, I will say that it happens in stages. We start obviously with the design evolution, and then we move to the technical bit. Then we start to think about the structure. For example, the Harbin Opera House has this diagrid, which you can see in this image right here.
Yeah.
It has this diagrid. So that is on its own. It has a functionality of its own. And then, the wall, the wood cladding, it's on its own. And then there are so many factors, but I think it all comes in stages. And collaborating, communicating with the local design institute, which we call LDI in China, is super important, because these LDI, what they do is they assist us in our process. So they assist us when it comes to, they don't necessarily do the design for us because we are the designers, but they assist us in understanding the structure, and they come back to us with their thoughts, and then we sort of change the design little bit, finding a balance between their suggestion and ours, not losing our identity. So we keep that in mind, and it's a back and forth with the LDI, it's a back and forth with the client, and with the designers and the team. So we're all doing different things in the project. Someone is working on the landscape, someone is working on the interior, someone is working on probably the detail of the roof, the detail of the detail of the facade. But then it is always a sync. It has to happen together. It has to blend together simultaneously. Yeah.
Amazing. Actually, I have one more last question for you. As you've been in the in different countries like India, UK, and China, like how do you compare the difference in the approach towards the design? Like how do you handle the transformation?
That's actually a very, very interesting question. And I'll try to answer it with all honesty. So I think for me, yes, I was born in India. I visit I visit my hometown, but I haven't really stayed here for much long. Like after my education in Bangalore, I went to the UK. So I think from what I experienced, I feel that it's very different. The typology, I won't say typology, but how you address design in India, how you address design in UK and in the East, in China is different. But it automatically always has a link, you know, it always sorts of ties you together. So I think that in India it was like that. Yes, it was very experimental. Designers were coming up with new approaches. It was very nice to see that we were starting to think out of the box. We were starting to be creative. We were starting to be bold. You know, not to be scared of the context or our clients or just going all out. And then in UK, it was obviously, you know, it's more to the West, so it's more about creating architecture which is very timeless. You know, it's about creating architecture which is very significant. And then you obviously see different design inspirations. So in UK, for me, while being at the AA, I was very exposed to people who are working in these very big global firms, you know, like Zaha Hadid Architects and Heatherwick Studio and Foster and Partners. And I think each of those offices have a beautiful approach to designing, have their own narrative or their own ways of design. But then again, in the East, then when I came back to Beijing, when I came back to China, I saw that there was a shift because it went from, it was the same contemporary approach, you know, but then they had this Eastern affinity to nature. You know, they're really talking about people and nature. They're talking about the forms that they're seeing around you. Because I think if you think about China, I think, yes, China is also, you know, it has tall towers. Yes, it has all the high-rise buildings and everything, but I don't know, it's still closer to the mountains. So it's still, I think the design typology sort of changes when there's a shift from west to east. Yeah, Western culture is very it talks about power, and you know, it's very powerful, and your buildings are very significant there. But then your Eastern architecture is also like that. Then they start to look more into traditional methods, which is very interesting in some of these firms in the East, you know, in like Vietnam, and then they talk about traditional methods. So I think the experience will always be enriching, regardless of where you are, if you're in India or in UK or in USA or in China even. And I think for me, it's been a plethora of experiences. You know, I literally went from India to the West, came back to the East. I'm in India again, and then I don't know, you know, like I don't know what's ahead. It's fun. It's very interesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions?
Hi, am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, ma'am. So I'm Harish. I'm from Chennai, India, and I have a question. So many of all the huge firms like Mad Architects and everyone who basically deals with the parametric design, everyone has an R&D development. So my question is, other than architects and engineers, other than architects and engineers, who are the other major consultants who are involved in an R&D project, and how important is for an architect to coordinate with work with the people from other fields?
Okay. Yeah. So I think every office has their own teams. You know, they have their own set of experts who are addressing different aspects of the construction of the design. You know, there are the designers, and then you have the structural people, and then the other computational experts. So at MAD Architects is also like that, yes, but we do not have definite clusters. We do not have a definite I mean, we are all part of the same hub. We're all part of the same house. We make sure that every project that we undertake, we have a couple of people who are experienced and have their expertise in these different fields. You know, so R&D. Yes, it is a very growing sort of aspect in the office for us, because we're really looking into newer emerging technologies, newer materials, newer methods of approaching construction. So I think that's interesting. And then there are also so R&D happens among us itself, among the people who are in the office. We don't have a separate block or cluster, but then we are again designers being mindful of, yes, of making an impact, of creating an architecture that is sustainable. We are researching and developing probably some smart materials. We are thinking about how we can implement these materials. Yeah, so every project has it's quite specific. Every project has set of people that come in different stages. Again, that's very important. We don't have everybody in the same time. So we have your designing stage, and then when we move into SD and DD, we talk more about R&D and more research into more things, more newer technologies, computational technologies. But yeah, it's extremely important for people from different experience levels to come together and to discuss about this. And like I said earlier, we interact with an LDI, we interact with a local design institute, specifically from China itself, who assists us in delivering probably solutions which we probably hadn't thought of when we were designing the form. So for example, we have a very complex structural system. We have a very complex truss structure. We have a very complex die-grid structure, and then we have experts like that who come in and talk to us about how we can implement this in our design. So then we strike a balance between the two, like the kind of curtain wall we're using, the kind of material we're using. Yes, there are experts who come and help us, and who come and lecture, and who come and share their insights. Yeah, and we're always collaborating with one set of structural engineers as well. So not necessarily from inside the office, but it's a process, I guess, how the office functions. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was informative. And I have, if you guys excuse me, I just have one more question. So, okay. So, currently I'm pursuing my B arc. I am currently in my last and final semester. I'm about to finish the college. So, I'm planning to pursue my, I'm about to start my master's, and I'm like in the process of choosing which course I want to do master's in. And I'm interested in parametric architecture. I wanted to pursue my master's in parametric architecture. But throughout my 5 years of my architecture BArch undergraduate course, I haven't tried, or I haven't experimented much on the parametric. So how should I make myself ready for a parametric architecture master's course?
I think you've literally spoken out my experience. You've spoken out exactly my journey. I think the answer that I will give you is what I did, basically. So, like even for me, my 5 years was nothing to do with parametric at all. It was extremely yes, it was architecture, but I didn't even know there was a thing such as parametric architecture. I mean, I kudos to you that you know, and I didn't. So when I was in my 5th year, I didn't know that there was a thing called, and at the time when I did my 5th year, I was, this trend had just started, and it was just starting to evolve. It hadn't exploded as it is now. So I think the journey was like that. It was, yes, you are doing your bachelor's in probably a field which is not related. But then you have the idea, so you have the you want to pursue parametric architecture. So I think the first thing I would say is, for me, I really delved into research, right? So I really wanted to know exactly what is it in parametric architecture. Now, parametric architecture is, again, I am nobody to define it, but it has multiple definitions. You have a different personal feeling towards it. So again, it's important to know what sort of design direction you want. Now, if you want to move into the current trending parametric architecture that you're seeing around you, it's basically just about your tools. I think if you're already developing such ideas in your head, it's just about understanding the kind of tools that you're using to bring these designs to life, right? So then you want to approach a master in parametric architecture. So then there are so many courses out there. So then you really look into whether your inclination is more towards fluid forms or 3D modeling, and then do you want that kind, or do you want more of, you know, statement sharp, I think, I don't know, patterns, or do you want generative design? There's generative design too, which is also like very interesting, because then you learn about you know, how these you know, generative design, you know, how these thousands of design permutations are mimicking mother nature's paths, you know, like it's mimicking nature. You know, you have generative strategies. Then there are courses like biomimicry, there are courses like emergent technologies. So there's so much you can do just under parametric architecture. So I think the first thing I would say is research, do your research and understand your profile, understand your profile, your design profile, understand your niche. I mean, a lot of people talk about the architecture style. You know, you must have an architecture style. Do you have an architecture style? It is not important that you have to have an architecture style about yourself, but then you should it's important to just know where you belong, you know, like do you see yourself pursuing this? Do you see yourself committing to this? Do you see yourself passionate to do this? And it'll just come. And then with research and years of research, I started doing it when I was in third year, and I started so much research that by the time I finished graduation, I worked first because I really wanted to take more time. And then it's sort of just, you'll find it, you know, I think once you stick to it and you're passionate about it, you'll find it. But you just need to know what you want to choose, you know, which design direction you're aligned to in parametric architecture. I think that's important.
Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much. We now have a question from Ramesh. So it's something like we started with solid blocks of building up, and then we moved on to building designing forms, and then now to parametrics. So he would like to know about the future of architecture. So post parametric designing, what would you see in the future of architecture?
So yeah, that's I think a very interesting I think arena for all of us as designers, as people who are in the field. You know, we're so curious to know what is the future. But I think, to be really honest with you, I feel that the future is already here. You know, I feel that we are already in the future, because look at us. We're literally in the middle of a pandemic, and we're working from home. We're communicating from home. We are relying so much on digital media for communication, you know. So I feel that more and more this future of architecture is going to be relying on the digital realm, you know. It's going to be relying more on technology, the new technology which is coming. So I think, yeah, when you talk about the future, you also wanting to know a lot more about AI and artificial intelligence and machines and robots and all of this. And then I think, yeah, like I said, the future I feel is already here. We're already implementing, already growing so much from solid blocks to curvilinear forms to fluid forms, and then now to, you know, even manufacturing, fabricating these complex geometries, which at one point we thought would have never been possible. So I think we are in that future now, and it's just up to us to really be smart about it. And you know, they think that robots will ultimately take over humans, but I don't think that's right. I think if you smartly know how to use your robots, then you're you can coexist, I guess. So it's interesting to know what the future is, but you are starting to see patterns of it, no? Like you're starting to already see it happening in this world that we're in today.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from the participants? Any questions?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, you're audible. Yeah.
Yeah, this is Shruti, and I'm doing my UG. How do you find inspiration in disintegration, ma'am? You had a presentation about chaotic disintegration. I wasn't able to understand it properly. So I just want to draw inspiration from disintegrated object. Like you draw inspiration from a tree or any natural forms, but how do you do that with disintegration forms?
Okay, I would like to know what you mean by disintegration, because I think for me that chaotic disintegration was maybe like understanding it as if something was disintegrating, something was breaking apart, right? So yes, yeah, the inspiration, I guess, the inspiration comes from a variety of ways, like I said before, the inspiration comes from yes, experiences that you go through, what do you see around you, how do you want to bring about that dialogue in your exploration. So for me, that particular one, that chaotic disintegration, I would think about these natural forms around me, just disintegrating, just breaking apart, just exploding, and then just creating this chaos. And then, but then, what is the meaning that you might want to take from that? So I just look at it as a landscape which is obviously undergoing erosion. So when you talk about disintegration, you mean erosion, right? Weathering, breaking apart. Yes, breaking apart, weathering, which you understand in geography. So it's like breaking apart of all of this, and then but then it's creating so much chaos around you. But then what is the meaning that you want to grab out of it? Again, is open to interpretation. Someone else might think of it as a very chaotic scene and then might not like it. Some of it might actually find beauty in it. Some of it might find meaning in it. So for me, I feel that creativity is at the edge of chaos. Like the more chaotic, the more creative you can be. So I think what drives your inspiration is, it can be anything. The possibilities are endless. So you just have the thought out of the box and then just have a go at it, and then you need your software knowledge to sort of enable you to just test it, just put it to the test. I guess I would say that.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
I hope it answered your question. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. Thank you.